This is Landon from The Plot and You, and you're listening to As the Story Grows.
Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week, the Plot and You frontman Landon Tewers joins the podcast. Plot's latest record, Swan Song, dropped back in September on Fearless Records. It's phenomenal. Go give it a spin after the episode. Landon and I chat about the weird rise of Christian metalcore, record label drama, and how COVID gave him the time to be happy with his creative output for Swan Song. This conversation was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed getting to hang out with Landon Tewers from The Plot and You. Well, how are you doing?
Good. I've just been hanging out and trying to enjoy the summer while I still have it. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
Kind of took most of the summer off to just relax and stuff. Actually, it took like a month off, and then I was like, okay, I'm going crazy not doing anything. So now I've been just like slowly letting work come back in, but it consumes me very fast when I allow it to.
Yeah. You just doing studio stuff at home?
Yeah, so I've been working with a couple people kind of from around my area, and then a couple people from like pretty close surrounding areas. But yeah, just staying pretty consistent. I got a couple people that I'm like really actively trying to get signed because I think they're really sick.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of like doing graveyard hours, just trying to get things done as quick as possible. So
that's awesome.
It's been good.
Yeah. How did COVID hit you?
Honestly, I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably the best thing that could have happened for me personally, because like we had toured so much on our last album cycle, and then we had to have our record sent in by a specific date that was like 2 months away, and I was like nowhere near close to being done with it.
Yeah.
So I was like, as soon as that happened, I literally I was ecstatic. I think I screamed. I was so happy. I was like, thank fucking God. Like, we had this Europe tour coming up that I wasn't particularly excited about because I just had so much shit going on in life, and that just would have thrown a lot off. So for me personally, I feel bad saying it, but I know a lot of people suffered, but for me, it was like definitely a positive. It gave me like a really good fresh like break to just get a new fresh perspective and like learn to appreciate things all over again.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you still up in Ohio?
No, so I moved up to Michigan about 5 or 6 years ago, and I've kind of just migrated around, but now I'm in like kind of the outskirts of Detroit. I live on a lake. I live on a lake out here, like right outside of Detroit.
Nice. What facilitated that move? Just change of scenery? COVID.
Yeah. So we were living downtown, and honestly, it was probably the coolest living experience I've ever had. I lived like right across the street from that famous St. Andrew's Hall venue. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of cool bars, a bunch of cool restaurants. We had a really cool apartment, and then as soon as COVID hit, it was like everything that was cool about living downtown was instantly gone. So like, all right, maybe this is time to buy a house, and so we found a house on the lake, and it's been sick. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's rad. That's rad. But you were from Ohio.
Yeah, grew up in Ohio. Grew up in a little city called Findlay, and I was there till I was probably like 23, 24. So it's still home. I still go back and visit as much as I can. But yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. What was growing up like?
It was interesting. There was a lot of there was a lot of sketchiness that happened around the area that I lived in. It was kind of like a poor area. And I grew up with a lot of kids that like to get into trouble, and I liked to also get into trouble. So I was always in trouble. and I mean, yeah. And then like my teenage years, it just kind of got worse. Like everyone started getting into drugs and like more like violent behaviors and like getting involved with sketchier and sketchier people, which was always kind of also kind of a driving factor in getting me out of there in general.
Yeah.
The older I got, the more involved my friends got into kind of like the drug scene and like a lot of really negative things. And so kind of like the first opportunity I got to get away from that, I did. And now it's like year after year, I'm losing more and more friends to heroin and violent crimes and, you know, things like that. So definitely think I made the right decision for me. And also I think I started touring when I was 18. So that also kind of like removed me a little bit from that environment. But ultimately it was just like the first real chance I got to move out and like start fresh with new people and not be like hindered by the past and things like that. I was just like, let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
What got you into music?
It's hard to say. Like, I think it was more just like, I mean, there was like some movies and like some artists that came around that I was like interested in. But I think ultimately it was what most of my friends were into. And I just kind of like wanted to share the same interests, you know. At first, like I honestly didn't even really care that much about it. It was just something like we just hang out and do it for fun.
Yeah.
It was like kind of like the last thing I expected to turn into like a career path, you know?
Yeah.
And it just kind of organically happened that way, which is cool. Like I'm stoked that it did, but yeah, it's weird how you can just like kind of fall into things in life just out of circumstance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it was always like skateboarding and just like, I don't know, skateboarding. I never really didn't really care about anything else, but the skateboard scene is also very close to the music scene. So it makes sense how that kind of organically happened. But yeah.
Was it always kind of heavy music you were into?
I started out into bands like Yellow Card and like Jimmy Eat World, stuff like that. And that kind of morphed into like Under Oath, As I Lay Dying, like a lot of Christian metal was huge for some reason back there. Like back then, like almost every band was a Christian band. And I wasn't even into like the whole Christian thing. It was just like, I just liked sound. And then, oddly enough, I ended up joining a Christian band like years later, which is funny because it was like a Christian band, you know, like I think there was one member that actually like took that aspect of it seriously, but I don't know, for some reason, everyone was just kind of playing the part just to like be able to play the music festivals and get those music festival guarantees that are pretty fat because churches don't have to pay taxes and they can pay that. So
it seemed odd that like, so I grew up in the younger Christian like metal scene, like when Zao was first coming up, and people would be like, yeah, they're cool, but they're Christian, so fuck them. And then like the generation after me was like, all the bands are Christian, it's awesome. And it's like, how did that happen? Because
I have no idea. It's the weirdest thing. I often think back to that, just like, and even knowing like tons of dudes that I was on tour with on these like primarily Christian band tours, like totally not taking it seriously at all. Like, and totally just like openly even like saying that they're not Christians. They're just kind of riding that wave.
Yeah.
And then I think over time we all came to like a mutual understanding, like, oh, like most of these bands aren't really after that. They're just kind of like, it's kind of an easier way in, which is pretty pathetic. And I mean, I was part of that. So maybe it was because the parents of these kids that were going to these shows, it was easier to like trick your parents into letting you go to a show if it's like, oh, they're Christian bands, you know, like maybe that was a big part of it. I don't know. I never really thought of the mechanics behind it, but pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was always weird to me.
Maybe maybe one day there will be a documentary on it and we'll get a full scope.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell happened there?
Pretty fucking weird.
That's awesome. When did you start playing in bands?
I think I was like 14 or 15, something around there. But again, it wasn't anything like serious. It was just like, let's get together, just like listen to music and then just like doodle around on guitars and like trade off instruments, and you know what I mean? Like it was more like about just hanging out than it was
Yeah.
about actually taking the art seriously. I don't think I really started taking it seriously until I was probably like 16. And then I started singing more in the bands that I was in and writing the songs for the bands and stuff like that. And I think that's when I started to really learn like, oh, I think there's something here, something that I actually am about. But again, still, even at that point, it wasn't like, oh, but I want to do this for a living. It was just more like, oh, this is something I really enjoy, you know. As gloomy as it might sound, like I never really had a lot, especially as like a teenager, I never really had like a lot of aspirations for an adult life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was more just like going with the flow. Cause I mean, that's what I grew up with, that's all I ever saw adults do, is just like, you know, you grow up, you get a basic job, you have kids, you are miserable for 30, 40 years and then you die. And so I never really saw much beyond that for myself. And I don't think many of my friends did either. So yeah, it's pretty weird.
What led to you joining Bless the Fall? Or not Bless the Fall, Before Their Eyes. Wrong.
Before Their Eyes. What's funny is the guitar player from my band, my old band, ended up joining Bless the Fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that, but it's pretty funny. So I was like in bands in Findlay and stuff. And Before Their Eyes got signed, and they were like the first band that I knew of from our city to actually like get a record deal. Mm-hmm. And then they started touring and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool. I didn't really particularly like their music or anything, but I became friends with the guitar player of that band. His name is Corey. And him and I just started like talking like all the time. And he like, I don't know, I guess he saw something in me and was like, hey, like, I think we're about to kick our bass. You'd be interested in trying out. I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And like, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months went by. Didn't really talk about it much. And then out of the blue, he just hit me up and was like, hey, like it's actually happening. We want you to come try out. And I went and tried out, bullshitted my way through it. And I don't know, I just connected with the guys well, even though I wasn't that good at bass. Like I never cared about bass or anything like that. I was just like, whatever, this is like a stepping stone. And then, yeah, I mean, it was just history from there. The dude that got me in the band ended up getting kicked out like 6 to 8 months later.
Oh man.
Which was weird. He got kicked out because he smoked weed, and then everyone started smoking weed. And none of this ever makes any sense. It's so stupid, but yeah, it all happened. I think I was in that band for like 2 years or something like that, and then I ended up moving to Plot. So yeah.
Yeah, what led to wanting to the Plot in you? Was it just like you wanted to move into a vocal role, or you were tired of like the Christcore scene? Or
I think it was a little bit of everything. I think it was like I was sick of the music. Even though I had like a pretty big say in like the musical direction that we were going, I just felt like we were kind of like going down a rabbit hole that I wasn't stoked on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like making the transition from like a non-Christian band within a band that's already established as a Christian band. That was a big factor. And I don't know, I just desperately wanted my own thing, because I'm extremely self-like to do things the way that I like to do it when it comes to art. And I don't know, I was just like, you know what, I think it's time. I was also getting into producing pretty heavily. I was working with a lot of bands from my state and like a few from out of state. And it was like actually starting to shape up to be like a clearer career path that I was really excited about. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I just kind of decided that I wanted to from a band and maybe start just like a solo project for fun, or like a band for fun, and then just slowly transition into the producer world. And then I started writing demos and songs for the plot. We were actually called Vessels before that, and we got hit up by records a couple months after me leaving Before Their Eyes, and they asked us if we were interested in signing to them, and I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Didn't really have a whole lot of aspirations outside of just maybe a couple tours a year, and then maybe like a record or two, and then just moving forward with just the producing and stuff. But then I don't know, it somehow evolved into 11-year career path that I did not at all expect to happen. So yeah.
Where'd the name That Plot and You come from?
Dude, I don't even know. It's the worst band name ever. It was a lyric for me. And I think I was just so fed up with like the whole like coming up with the name type thing that I was just like, sure, this works. And I guess that was it. I remember we were sitting at a Wendy's in Findlay talking about band names. And then I was just going through different lyrics. I was like, let's just call it this. And everyone was like, yeah, sure. Because we were not agreeing on anything. So now we're stuck with the shittiest band name. And yeah.
It's not the shittiest band name.
It's not the shittiest. There are definitely worse. There's a band called The Devil Wears Prada, so it could be a lot worse.
Oh man,
no, they're awesome. They're a great band. They also hate their band. So
yeah, who doesn't like?
Who doesn't? Yeah, at this point, I think everyone's kind of grown to hate their band name.
You pick some name when you're in your late teens, and then it sticks with you.
Exactly.
When you're 30s and you're like
30s. Yeah.
why did we pick that?
So many times I've tried to get labels and stuff to like let us just switch our name to the Plot, and they're just like, no, sorry, we can't do it. I'm like, okay.
What led you guys leaving Rise Records? Was it just your contract was done, or was there some other thing?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of things that went wrong in that whole situation. A few of which I don't want to get too deep into, but sure. Basically like I pissed off somebody on the label, another member of a band on a label. And he kind of basically told the label like, okay, if you don't get rid of this band, then I'm not going to put music out for you guys anymore. And years later, we've come to find out this dude is the biggest piece of shit in the entire, and so everything panned out really well. I wasn't happy on that label anyways. We were definitely nowhere near a priority. And so everything really worked out for the best for, I think, both parties. So yeah, honestly, it was great.
Yeah. How'd you end up with Stay Sick?
So that was kind of like a circumstantial thing. It was like, they basically said like, we're going to let you go, but we're going to pass you on to like a smaller label that's like a I forget, like just basically a smaller label that's partially owned under the label. And we also didn't want to do that. And then Stay Sick offered to buy us off of Rise Records for a certain amount of money. And then they offered us like a really good deal on top of that. So we're like, cool, like that's a cool transition. And it was just a 1-album deal. So we're like, whatever, put one record out. And then honestly, for me, I was stoked because I was like, sick. One last record, and then I can be done with it and then go away. I don't have to do this shit anymore. I don't want to tour anymore. I don't want to do any of this anymore. And then Fearless came by and fucked all that up. And no, I'm kidding. No, but they came to us with a really cool deal. And we're like, all right, this is like something I feel like is worth at least doing like another record or two with, just to see. It's kind of how every album with us has been. It's like, whatever, we'll do one more. And then it ends up like turning into 3 or 4 more years of just doing it, It's cool. I'm stoked. Things are fine.
Yeah, I was going to ask if your deal included no touring, but you talked about all the touring you were doing on the last record, so obviously you can't quit that, or haven't so far.
It's weird, but it's like you can't really have one without the other in this day. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you could, but I don't think that we're a band that's like big enough to where we could get away with just doing like festivals or maybe, I don't know, who knows. But it's definitely been like, if you tour on a record, that's like one of the best forms of promotion, and so yeah, I mean, every album cycle, just, we get tour offers, and we have to like weigh the options. If is it worth our time? Is it worth, investing into? And I don't know, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's always a gamble, but at this point we're all just so used to it that it's just like second nature. And longest it's really ever going to be is like a month, so it's not too bad to power through, even if it sucks.
Do you see the scales on me? Feeble tongue or hues of green? I don't feel like catching prey, but I don't feel like anything. Sit in my head, straight from the truth. Pick at the skies, don't look at the past, got something to lose. I feel attention from every direction. It's my reflection, I correct, don't even mention. You can't fix my soul, my crutch, my home. Feed it but it's best just left alone. My dear, my foe, my holy ghost, who never gave a damn till its face was shown. Your face was shown.
The new album is called Swan Song, out next Friday. You name your album Swan Song, so I got to ask, is this the last one? Is this finally the last Plot record?
I don't know. There's a lot of metaphors behind the meaning of it, and I think the record will give kind of a fuller scope on why it is titled that. But I don't know. I never like to fully say yes or no to that, because I've put the period at the end of so many records at this point and thought that I would move away from it. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'll never be done with music in general, but as far as the band goes, I have no idea. Like, we'll see. But just play it by ear like always. There's tons of themes on the record that I think once you listen to it as a whole, it'll make more. The album title will make more sense.
Yeah. You talked about needing COVID to like hit that pause button and then refresh creatively.
Right.
Was your lyrical musical inspiration inspired by what was happening in the world around you, or was it just like you were just able to mentally decompress and pour yourself into this with time? Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I wrote a good portion of it before COVID, probably like 5 or 6 songs. And then, I mean, during COVID, I wrote a decent chunk, and I don't think COVID really had much of a play in like how the songs turned out, but like, I do think just having the time to really sit down and cultivate like full-fleshed ideas and like really just sit on them for as long as I needed to. I think that was like really key to like making these songs what they are, because every song got really proper attention, like tons and tons of hours. And if I ever felt winded or just like not excited about what I was working on, I would just take a couple weeks off, and that was fine because there was nothing else better to do, So I think that played a huge role in why and how it turned out the way that it did. But I mean, I know like in the future, that's probably not always going to be an option. I know that like in the future, if we do another record, I might not have as much time, but I'm hoping that in the future I will have as much time.
Yeah.
Because it really made a huge world of difference.
Yeah. You will talk about the artwork and the direction, the visual concepts for this record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I had an idea, a very specific idea that I even drew out. It was just a couple in a bed, and they were both naked, just totally vulnerable with each other. And there's like different symbolisms in the way that they're like looking at each other, not looking at each other, touching or not touching. And it's just meant to kind of show like the darkness and the beauty of like a very vulnerable love, and like the intricacies of just yeah, just like exposing yourself 100% to someone and knowing that they know tons of things about you and you know tons of things about them. It's just like, it's deep, it's scary, you know, it's like all these different things all intertwined at once, beauty and fear. And yeah, just so many different layers of different things. And again, I think it's something like, once you listen to the record as a whole, I think it makes a lot more sense and it'll kind of like peel back layers and stuff.
These holes run so deep, but I dive in endlessly. I leave my values on display. I'll trade myself, I'll go for you. What I'm down for you. You know it's true. Yeah, I've fallen way too short. My heart's been golden weary. I'm all too sure.
What are your plans? Like, you're releasing this record now. We're in a weird phase in this country where like some people are touring, some people are not comfortable with it. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
everything's weird still. Like, what's your plans for once this album is released? Do you have shows lined up, or are you just gonna take it easy?
No, so we made a pact within our group that we weren't going to put the record out until we were able to tour and like promote it properly. And so yeah, we're doing a tour in November. I think it's November till or something, and it's with like Silverstein and Can't Swim. And so that'll be our first tour back. And then I think we're taking most of the winter off, and then we're doing Europe, and then a next tour in the spring, but we haven't announced that yet. So yeah, we're going full force with it, I guess, until the world gets shut down again, which could happen at any time now. But I mean, yeah, honestly, it is pretty risky. You know, we've seen a decent amount of our friends' bands tours get dropped because of COVID, and people get financially fucked because of it and stuff. So we're definitely very weary about it. Like, I think everyone's got at least the tiniest bit of anxiety about something like that happening, but all we can do is like take the proper precaution, be as safe as possible. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully everything goes smooth and everything can stay on track and consistent. You know, it's such a bummer to see all these bands get screwed over or just like not feel comfortable in general still to do it, which I totally understand, but or at least gonna try.
Yeah, that's cool. You said you're probably never going to be done with music. I mean, you're doing production. You have a ton of solo material available on Spotify. You have the AI 640. What differentiates those projects for you and keeps you inspired to doing those alongside the band?
I don't know. It's one of those things where, I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but it's like, I get depressed, honestly. Like if I'm not creating consistently, whether that's for myself or for other people. So in between every project, I'm kind of working on the next project or like somebody else's project, which I'm the older I get, I'm starting to enjoy that even more, just writing for other people. So I don't know. It's always like, I'm always in a different headspace when I'm writing. So sometimes it's like in the mood to do something extremely heavy, and that doesn't always line up with like what Plot's doing, or I'm in the mood to write something really slow and experimental and like sappy, and that fits more with the solo stuff. So it's like sometimes I should be writing for Plot and I'll accidentally write a solo song, or vice versa. You know what I mean? It's like, it happens all the time. There's probably at least 5 or 6 Plot songs that were solo songs originally, and vice versa. You know, a lot of like give and take with those two projects. So at this point, like, I don't even care. They're all the same thing. It's, you know, like they just have different names, but it's all coming from the same person, same mind. So I'm like caring less and less every year about what project it falls under. It's all my music. So whatever. But I know with Plot, like, it needs to be a little bit more strict under that, sound and kind of that wheelhouse. So it's easy and it's difficult at different points of my life, like where to know how to categorize each thing. But I think it's just like like I said, like the more time goes on, the less I care about which project it goes to. It's just like, as long as it sees the light of day somehow.
For me to break,
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I'll never